Welcome to the In Between podcast. I am excited to chat with Dr. Anna Marie, a certified expert in brain health and a PhD in natural medicine. She's the founder of Happy Whole You Wellness Centers, and you're in Bakersfield, right?
Yes, I am.
I'm so excited about this. Anna was referred to me by one of our previous guests, and so I'm really excited to jump right into the conversation because I am a big health nut and I just feel like you're a wealth of knowledge on all of it. And so I would love for you to share with my audience how you became so passionate about wellness and really the connection with the mental health and just, we could go beyond that, energetics, all the things. So I would love for you to share a little bit more in depth about yourself.
Yeah, honestly, this has been a long journey. It was me healing my own brain and fixing what was going on within me. And what I found was going the medical route. I was put on a lot of medications in my early 20s, and that sent me on a downward spiral, and that did not work for me. And so there was a turning point in my life where I had to essentially figure out how to heal myself so I could actually live my life. And through that journey, I discovered energy medicine, holistic medicine, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, like all this whole new world beyond Western medicine that I'm like, what? Like my undergrad is in exercise science, and I'm just like, why has no one like told me about this secret world of healing and herbs? And so it was like my own journey of healing that led me to this. And then what I discovered is part of that journey, it didn't matter how many miles I ran, how many kale salads I ate, or diets I went on. It wasn't until I got my mind right that life started to feel so much more in flow. And so that's when I really dove into the mental health piece and the aspect of really working with people on how they think about their life, how they speak about their life, and how that influences the biochemistry in the physical body.
That is so juicy, honestly, is the word I would use to describe it. I actually got my bachelor's in exercise physiology as well. And I totally agree with you. Like, we only dip into the anatomy side in that degree. Like, we're not full in it like other probably pre-med things, but it's very just Western, and you don't even touch the surface on everything that you just talked about. Could you give my audience a good background around the difference between like holistic health, everything you just talked about in regards to Western medicine? Like, what are the two different sides?
Yeah. So essentially, I'm trained as a doctor of traditional naturopathy. So we don't break the skin. We don't use synthetic drugs. We really use what God's given us on earth and to heal the body. So every organ system has its own ability, its own mechanism to repair and heal itself. Western medicine is fantastic when it comes to emergency care in terms of, I'm in a car accident, my arm is torn off or halfway off, like bring me to the ER. And Western medicine does a good job of, so you don't feel that pain as much, giving you the drugs, the medications for that, and surgeries. And so I don't think one is better than the other. I think that they both have their time and their place, and they shouldn't be pinned against each other. I think there needs to be more synergy for them together. But I think when it comes to holistic health, this is truly preventative care and restoring foundations of health. Whereas Western medicine is putting a Band-Aid on and not getting to the root cause and preventing. Like, we have early detection in Western medicine, but we don't have preventative, right? Like we say, oh, well, go get your mammogram and, that's preventative care. Well, no, it's actually not. It's early detection. But okay, so let's dive into some things we could do to, prevent breast cancer, and some things like getting enough sunlight, getting enough sleep, managing your stress, eating, foods that are high in antioxidants and polyphenols. And so there's truly things we can do to prevent. And that's the world that I live in, is how do I help someone restore their foundations of health, do things that are going to, prevent dis-ease from accumulating in the body. And then also an aspect that I work with people on that I believe is truly missed in the Western world is if we go inside every cell in the body, and we keep going until we can't go any further. The only thing that's left is what's called a quantum atom. And this is energy. This is literally energy. We can't touch it, we can't grab it, we can't feel it. Within that quantum atom is so much information. And that means if we go inside every single cell, so we can't go any further, there's only energy. That means that we are more energetic than we are physical beings. So when we keep meeting the physical body when it's talking to us with a physical action, I think we're missing a part of healing. I think we need to meet it with a mental action, with an energetic action first, and then go into some physical things that we can do. And I know some people might be like, what the heck is this lady talking about? But I've seen it with my own eyes. I've been working with people specifically in energy medicine and natural health for 8 years. I've been in the wellness industry for 20. And it is when we work on the emotional blockages that are being stored in the body that weaken tissue over time that can cause dis-ease, and working on the energetics as well as the physical, as well as the biochemical, where we see a huge leaps and bounds towards living an energetic and healthy life.
And when you talk about the energetic side in relation to the body, what kind of protocols are you using? We've had a couple of people talk about like somatic healing and how our body obviously stores a lot of our past experiences and things like that. What modalities are you using to release that energy or create new energy?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'm doing is I'm figuring out what's going on with the person. And so when I look at foundations of health, I use a form of biofeedback. I use muscle response testing. I also use energetic testing. I'll also look at people's eyes and use iridology. I'll look at their tongues. I'll look at their face. I'll look at their fingernails. So I want to grasp essentially how is your body physically showing what's going on within. And then I'm listening for how they are speaking about their life, the words that they're using, because our thoughts and our words carry vibrational frequencies that impact the physical body. So I'm taking all this into account. When I take all that into account, then I look at, okay, what tools do we have in our toolkit that could help this person? And, not everyone wants to swallow supplements and pills and things like that. So I use a lot of plant stem cells, gemotherapies. These are liquids. I also use some visualization tools to drop into different points of our life, extracting the value gained from those. Maybe they're bad experiences, but leaving that emotion in the past. So visualization techniques. And then, we have all the nutraceuticals. I have my own line of nutraceuticals that I formulated specifically for the brain and emotional brain health. And then we have all the biohacking stuff. So we have the red light therapy. We have sauna therapy. We have medical grade sauna, outdoor sauna, cold plunge, cryotherapy, spinal alignment bed, bioharmonic, theta therapy. We have a lot of these different cool, biohacking opportunities for people. And so we pair those, but we also pair those with the mindset piece. If we don't shift the way we think and speak about our life, again, you can do all the biohacking in the world. You can eat all the healthy food in the world. You can exercise all day long, but we have to do the mental work as well. And so that's essentially what we do with people every day. And it's so much fun.
I know it sounds so much fun. And it's so true what you're saying, because I'm obviously on the opposite side. I don't have a degree in any of these things, but I am someone who's benefited from them in the sense that I have been in therapy, since I was in high school. I'm 29 now, and I had a lot of traumatic things happen. And it wasn't until my mid-20s where I was like, okay, the therapy is great. Like there definitely is a time and a place for it, but what is missing? Yeah. And like the last 3 to 4 years, I've really dived into like all these different forms of healing. I got into, an integrative medicine. I'm doing different somatic work and all these different types of things and modalities, if you will, because it's like the mindset work, the therapy, the things that we were going on, even in therapy, right? I was doing EMDR, all of these, but it was just not enough, right? There was something that it still came back. The trauma still came back, or for me, it's been acne. Like acne has just been so stubborn. And I had this shift of like going to dermatologists for the acne, right? They're supposed to solve the acne. Yep. Going to therapy for the mental health. They're supposed to help with the mental health. And it was like, what if they were correlated, right? Like what if it was deeper issue? And that was the first thing I'll never forget, I sat down with my naturopath doctor and she's like, we were talking about my acne and she's like, okay, well, like what trauma have you experienced? And I'm like, well, why does that matter? We're talking about my skin. And she's like, yeah, so what trauma have you experienced? Right. And like extending that conversation and making people realize like Western medicine has really put us in like a cone of essentially like, hey, here's your problem. This is the type of doctor that you go to. But those things are not connected. And for me personally, like my skin issues have gone a lot with my trauma, but then it was also thyroid issues. Do you think my dermatologist was ever going to talk about my thyroid? No. So it's so interesting to me what you guys do, because it's like you really are looking at the whole picture.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what's beautiful about our body is our body gives us physical symptoms to give us information about emotionally things we need to shift and change energetically, physically. And so the things we're not trained in that. So that's like what I do. That's what I love is like I'm essentially decoding what the body is sharing, And so when we look at like the thyroid is all about, communication. It's your throat and that's your throat chakra. And, are you feeling like you can't speak up for yourself? Are you not actually speaking up and stepping into the person that you're meant to be? Growing up, were you told to be seen but not heard? Do you have temper issues? So when you do talk, it's explosion. Like there's all these things that can be tied to that. And then even with the acne piece, this can be, being self-critical, not loving ourselves enough. It can also be the boiling up of things in our life. And so you're right. We think, oh, my thyroid, I go to my endocrinologist. Oh, my skin, I go to my dermatologist. Oh, my heart, I go to my heart doctor. And it's like, at what point did we cut the body apart and think that this beautiful symphony of an instrument should just be, these bits and pieces all in silos by themselves? And I think that's just such a mistake. And I think 100 years from now, maybe not even that, because it's already starting, maybe like 30, 40 years from now, I think we're going to look back and say, what were we thinking? Like, what were we thinking? Western medicine didn't really, it really stemmed out of the petrochemical industry. And, you go back to about 1900 to the 1920s, and some things started to really shift in our medical schools, which were called colleges back then. And they started to simultaneously like dismantle holistic health, because you used to be able to go to a 4-year university pretty much anywhere and get a degree and learn about herbs and learn about energy medicine and learn about ancient Native American practices. We don't have those in our universities anymore. So you have to actively go out and seek this information. And it is wild to me that this isn't more readily available at universities across America. But I mean, again, we are driven when you're getting funding by the pharmaceutical companies to do research. It's just, it's all, you just follow the money, but that's not what this podcast is about.
Yeah. Well, it's true. It is following the money. And that's why it's more difficult to come by, and it's not as accessible for everyone, right?
Yeah.
I know what I pay for mine. Probably some people could not afford that.
Yeah.
There is no insurance and all these things. And while it is probably the better option, it has been harder and harder to find. But I do think you're right. Like things are changing, and hopefully that will continue to happen, and there'll be more changes and more access to holistic health as a whole and all these different options.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, it is crazy because we have this mindset that if my insurance doesn't cover it, then I'm not going to do it, or I can't afford it. And I've helped enough people that, they have an $85 copay or a $40 copay or whatever, and all the things add up. And it's not just the money out of pocket, it's your time. When I have a client that signs up for a 12:30 appointment with me, you better believe I am ready at 12:30. Have there been times where I'm like 10 or 15 minutes late? Yes. And if I am running late, my team calls them to say, hey, Dr. Anna Marie is running a little bit late. Just want to give you a heads up. I can't tell you how many times in my early 20s when I was going through the racket of pharmaceuticals and all of that I would sit in offices 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour waiting. And then I would go into the room and then I'm sitting there for another 15, 20, 30 minutes. So by the time I leave an appointment where I see a practitioner for 5 to 7 minutes, I'm like, I just took up, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours of my day. Like, this is wild. This
Yeah.
is crazy. And then we think, oh, well, it's a $40 copay. Actually, they just billed your insurance. And I know your insurance paid for it, but you're paying for that because you're not making more money at your 9 to 5 because they're giving you health insurance or you're paying out of pocket for health insurance. And so, there's so much wrong there. I wish we could pay and have in this country just catastrophic insurance. So like if you get in a car accident or if
Yep.
you have an emergency visit, have some extreme illness or something like catastrophic insurance. But to my understanding, that went away when Obamacare came in or something along those lines. But like, I don't get it. I don't get it. My family, it's like $1,500 a month to have basic health insurance. So I don't get fined, with our insurance because we have 2 children and
Yeah.
we don't use it.
Yeah.
And our,
Well,
I
and
mean, our,
it's to say that it adds up as well because like you just mentioned with the copays, your general doctor is just going to refer you out to your gynecologist, your cardio. They're not going to really help you.
Yeah.
And in holistic medicine, from what I've experienced, I've been able to get help and relief for multiple different things and not referred out unless it was completely necessary for
Correct.
Western medicine to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, yeah, again, what could I do with $20,000 a year, that I'm paying and because we don't use it. So like, it's just,
Yeah.
the whole system is broken. But I mean, yeah, it's just, that's the world we live
That's
in
where
this
we're
country.
at right now. Well, I
Yeah.
would love to go back to the energetics conversation because I was really intrigued. Like I mentioned, I listened to your podcast and I assume it consumed a lot of your content on social media. And obviously the conversation and topic of my podcast is in-betweens. And so we're talking to a lot of specifically women entrepreneurs who are in the thick of it and maybe they're building a business, all of those things. And I would love to hear from your expertise how getting into energetics and working on energetics could help them in this in between. Maybe they're stressed out. Maybe they're dealing with a lot. They're trying to build something. They're a mom. Whatever the case is, I feel like what you have they could leverage.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the in between, I always say for me, the in between is the point of the last high or the point of the last low. And then when you kind of get out of that and you're just kind of like doing this for a minute,
Yep.
you're like
Yep.
taking a breath. And then what you find is either that breath is taking you a year, 2 years, 5 years. And you're like, how did I even get here? What am I doing with my life? What's happening? Right. And yeah, so like for me, like when I think of the in between, I think of those moments. So, being in between is, I think it's kind of like a false idea that we think because we're creators. So we're always in flow with something. And we get to choose what we're being in flow with. So I think that's the first step is recognizing that our life is completely made up of everything we've chosen up to this moment. The good, the bad, and the ugly, how we've chosen to respond or how we've chosen to react. And so I think the moment we can grasp that, hey, I chose all of this and own it, like it almost like energizes us versus, oh, well, if my ex didn't do that, or oh, if this didn't happen, or like that's how I used to be. I used to blame everyone and everything for everything that was going on in my life. And I felt so out of control. My hormones were out of whack. Everything felt out of control in my life because I was giving my energy to everything else, blaming everything else. And the moment I stepped in and said, oh, well, I chose all this. This is all me. And at first, it's like my ego was like, no, it is everyone else, When I stepped into that, I was like, this is so liberating. Like, it is so liberating to realize, like, I get to design my life. I get to choose, if someone says something to me, I get to choose how it makes me feel. I get to choose what I make it mean. And so I think when we're in between the last high or the last low, seeking out the next high, I think it's really getting into that mindset and being in flow with who we are. And a lot of times that means slowing down. and not looking outside of ourselves for validation and what we should be doing next. Because I think the moment we go outside of ourselves to seek something to make us feel a certain way, that's when we lose that inner compass and that thing that we're supposed to be working towards. I don't know if that
That's
answered
so
your question.
powerful. No, it did. And it's so powerful. And I love what you're saying. And I think, man, in this world and this generation, the ownership piece is the hardest part, right? No one
Yeah.
wants to take ownership these days, and let alone take ownership for what they've created and that they've created for themselves. What do you think, kind of talking about the mindset piece there, why do you think it's hard for people to take that ownership? And why do you think it's hard for people to understand that they're the master, right? They're creating what they're experiencing, they're choosing and creating.
Well, I think it's a comfort. Like we get comfortable being uncomfortable, and a familiarity, if I can get that out. I also think that the moment we take ownership, that also comes with an energy exchange that we get to do something about it. And sometimes we feel so exhausted and so tired and are like, I can't take on one more thing. And then when I realize that I've created all this, I don't even know where to begin to fix it. And in those moments, you get to get quiet, you get to go in your room, you get to crawl under your covers, and you just get to breathe. And I think that's the slowing down. Because if we just breathe and take a step back, we are all connected to this thing called the quantum field. It houses all the information that we need to know. Everything we need to know is within us. And so if we can get quiet enough to just take a step back and get calm and let things flow to us, our path will be illuminated for us. It's like when we start, everything is forced, we hit roadblock after roadblock. Whereas when we take a step back and we're just like, okay, I'm going to let life kind of show up for me. And we do this in a strategic way. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to just not do anything. And you could do that and you may find joy. And again, your life's going to keep unraveling and unfolding because we are constantly creating. But I think it's so important to just get that quiet time and to trust that inner knowing. Because I can't tell you how many times, even just this last month, we get off track. We quit listening to ourselves. We start looking outward for the answers. And then we think other people know better than what we have within us. And it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. You have the
Well,
answers.
and I think we also get distracted in this world, right?
Yes.
And so it gets comfortable to choose the distractions. I just caught myself doing this a couple weeks ago. I'm like, why am I sitting here just scrolling social media? Like, there's so many things I need to, not even need to be. I know that if I do them, I will feel better and I will
Yeah.
be more productive, all of those things. And I'm in the trap, right? And I'm just like scrolling. And whether it's your phone or TV or even people, right? Like, we can be too reliant on them. It's distractions. And I mean, luckily I was able to stop myself and be like, okay, like, can I read a book? What productive thing can I do here to shift that mindset? But I think the world currently, right, is designed to distract us from ourselves, which has
Yes.
the answers.
Yes, and that is called the Matrix. It's it's so the Matrix, and we're getting distracted, and it's like, again, you have the answers within you, and once we know, we can choose to do something about it. And I do think that we're used to being told how to be, what to be, what success is. I mean, I left an 18-year career at 40 years old to step in and do and have this brick and mortar happy whole you. People were telling me I was crazy. I walked away from a six-figure salary, benefits for my family, you know, retirement. You just check every box. And I'm like sitting there and I have a great life. And I'm like, I'm not okay inside. I feel like a fraud. I feel like I need to be doing something else. I knew I needed to be doing something else. And the outside world was telling me, No, because what you have is what we tell you success is. This is safe. You've made it. You're a woman. You're making 6 figures. You're like doing the thing. And so that messes with your mind until you get outside of that matrix and you spend time with people like yourself, people like me, people like a lot of the people I associate with now who are doing their own thing, who have their own businesses, who are following their passions, who are listening to who they are from the inside out. Because honestly, we are all programmed from a school system that tells us to go to work, be an employee, be a good listener, and be a good person that shows up and gives 30, 35 years, 40 years of your life to a company. And listen, that is good for like some people for sure. Like I have some really amazing employees and they're like, I have no desire to own my own business or to do the whatever. And that's fine. But when they come here at Happy Holy You, I'm like, how do you want to show up in the world? What is the difference you want to make in the world? Is there any way that you can do that through this company? Right? Because we all have to follow that inner calling. And sometimes it's in your workspace and sometimes it's outside of your workspace and maybe in your volunteer hours or whatnot. But you have to follow that. And we're not taught that. We're taught, oh, well, you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money, you don't have this, you don't have that. When if we shift that lens into, I have plenty of money, I have plenty of time, I have all the resources. Because if we all actually opened our eyes and looked around, everything we need is there. It's all there. And it can happen within a conversation, right? Like you may not physically have the money, but all you need to do is have some conversations because that money is out there. You just got to call it in. It's in the field. So it's a programming thing. And I just think if our world, if people started showing up to follow that inner calling of doing that thing that they are genius at, oh my gosh, how amazing and extraordinary would like the average person be walking down the street, and it's like, if you're great at making muffins, freaking make the muffins, like do
Yes.
your thing.
Yes, lean into that. And I think that's the hardest part is people, because of the matrix that we've just talked about, we're not having that quiet time. We're not listening to ourselves. So we don't have those answers. And then we think we have the answers because we're watching everybody else on Instagram tell us what they're doing and how great it is. And then we're back to where we started.
Yeah.
And I know you just mentioned it, but I would love to go deeper into, the career shift that you made. And you had obviously a lot of in-betweens, through all of that. But what were the defining moments for you to make that choice? Because like you said today, right, that is a big decision to make. Things on the line at that point, right? You had your kids at that point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's...
My daughter was...
In today's age, risky.
Yes.
So what did it take? Like, what were those defining moments and what was finally like, okay, I have to do this. No excuses.
Yeah. So I think if I back up, I was 10 years, I was a teacher. And around year 6 and 7, I started having this, like, you need to go. Like, you have other things you need to do. And I always did stuff on the side. I did day trading on the side. I was investing in real estate on the side. I was doing a lot of stuff on the side. I'm like such an entrepreneur. It's like the monopoly, the game of life, right? And I was always doing that. And then it was like, okay, 10 years, like I need to make a change. And I applied for a couple jobs. One job I didn't get. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that was my chance, right? Like we think that, like we didn't get something, so we think that was our chance. Well, no, that wasn't for me. And this other opportunity came my way. And I went to 4 interviews to get this spot. And I was like, all right, God, if I get, this is my dream job. I made a promise that I would do like the rest of my career in that position. And I got the job and I was about 5 years into that position. And I knew I needed to go again. And then, but it's like, we work so hard to get that one thing and then we get there, right? And then we step into that in between where we're like, oh my gosh, like I can choose something different, or maybe I can't. It's not actually what I want anymore, which is actually what should be happening, by the way. Because if we keep evolving as a human, our environment will keep evolving too. So things are going to change. And so during that dream job that I got. And I remember I went out and I bought a $180 dress. I never spent that much money on a dress before for this interview. It was like from Black House White Market. And I was like, and I brought juices in to like my first interview. And I was like, I wanted this job so bad. And I started to feel guilty because it was such a great job. It was like anyone would love this job. And I was like, who do you think you are? You keep wanting more. I mean, like, when are you going to be satisfied? Like that voice in your head that tries to like mess you up. And then I started to really study like all the stuff that I do now in that position. I started to like learn about Chinese medicine. I started to like take these courses, and I enrolled back in school, and I was doing all of this on the side. So my day trading went away and some of my investing went away, and I like shifted that energy to like really study. And so for 8 years, 7, 8 years while I was in that position, I was studying the whole time. And then I always say our body speaks to us. And my body kept speaking to me around the 6, 7 year mark. I started to just feel like more exhausted. I started to have autoimmune markers come up on my blood work. And I was like, oh, it's probably because I have these breast implants. I got those out, and which was helpful. But then I started to have like this issue with my hip, and I started like all of these things started coming up. And then with my hip, I was 39 years old and I was scheduled for a hip replacement. And I'm like, oh, I really need to keep this job now because I need insurance. And then I sat there, and I'll never forget it. I was like thinking, I was like, what are you doing? This is not what you believe in. You know that your hip issue is due to the fact that you're not stepping into the person you're meant to be, because that when we have hip issues, that's part of it. Also emotional support, also financial like support. And I thought that, well, if I leave this, how am I ever going to make 6 figures again? Emotionally, my husband was kind of checking out at the time, and I wasn't stepping into the person I was meant to be. So no wonder my hip was jacked up, right? No wonder my blood markers were all jacked up. And most people wouldn't associate this, but with what I had been studying and learning, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what's happening. So I was like, okay, I canceled my hip replacement, and I was like, at 40, I'm leaving. And I retired on my 40th birthday. And I had already been building this happy hole you on the side. And I literally felt this huge weight lifted off of me. It was so crazy. My hips started to get better. My blood work is completely fine. And it was like, it was a knowing. It was like such a knowing. But when you turn your back on yourself and you quit listening to that inner calling, you will get sick. This will happen. You get dis-ease in the body, and it shows up in different ways in all of us. It can be indigestion, it can be bloating, it can be Hashimoto's, it can be all of these things. And it is your body's way of trying to say, hey, you get one life, you get to wake up, and you need to make a change, or you're going to continue to get more and more ill. And so that was like, my physical body was constantly talking to me. And my husband was like, yeah, leave, get the hell out of there, right? Like, you got this. And, but again, it was my own inner critic and my own fear of all of the unknown. And what's crazy, within 24 months, I replaced that 6-figure income 10 times. And it felt way like less pressured. And it felt, I'm not going to say effortless, but it was like so much fun and joy and in flow and being in the community and working with people. And it felt so right. And I think that is like, that's like everything. And so now I've been over here going on 3 years, and now I'm like making another shift right now. And it's like this inner calling, and like, I know I need to be doing this change and this shift, and I'm stepping into it, and it's uncomfortable at first. And then it's like that voice, what are you doing? You've built this whole thing. And it's like, great, but you can do it. I can have this and I can do the other thing, right? It doesn't have to be one or the other. But I think we need to give ourselves permission to completely change our career, change whatever at any point of our lives. And the biggest question I ask myself that helps my inner compass now is, if you're 80 years old, will you regret it or will you not? Will you regret trying or will you regret not trying? And every time I ask myself that question, I'm like, okay, here I go. And I'm stepping into something that's not super comfortable, but damn, if I don't do it, like, when am I going to do it? Right. So,
Yeah.
anyone listening, it's like, now is the time. Like, you can do it strategically. You can leverage where you're at to build the life you desire, and you can do it strategically, but don't play small and don't play scared. Like, play with excitement. And that is like so important.
How are you teaching your daughter to
Oh
have
my
this
gosh.
mindset and mind frame? And I mean, I would assume, I don't have kids yet, but I would assume you're obviously trying to instill certain lessons that you've learned in her before she has to learn them herself. So, how are you going about that?
Girl, she is teaching me every day.
I love it.
She is literally the most amazing human. And both of my kids are. And I know that they came here to save me from myself, from my own selfishness, from my own ridiculousness. And I am so grateful for both of my children. Garrity is an amazing soul. One of the things that I have been very conscious of, especially over the last 10 years, is how I am speaking about things in my life, how I'm speaking about work, how I'm speaking about health, how I'm speaking about other people. And so, because they absorb all of that. And I try to like have my kids experience the things I'm doing. So when I did a keynote a few weeks ago, I brought my son. He missed school and flew to Michigan with me, and he experienced the whole thing. My daughter's gone to chakra classes with me, breathing classes with me. She's seen me speak. So I try to expose them to all these different things that I'm up to. One of the biggest things that I've worked with my kids on is other people don't get like decide how you feel. You get to decide how you feel. And so there may be people that, they hurt you, but it's usually because they're hurting inside. And it's what you choose to do with what people say to you. And that's on you. And one thing that just happened is my daughter wasn't invited to this birthday party, and all the other girls in our class were invited. And this girl, the girl that had the birthday party, is friends with another girl, and that girl came over to my daughter, and Garrity's working on her stuff. And I only know this story because she wrote this in a book she's writing, and I like read the chapters of her book when she gets a chapter. And I was reading this chapter, and it was like, Emma came up to me and asked if I was going to Susie's birthday party, and she knew that I wasn't invited, but she asked me if I was going, and so I just said, no, I'm not invited. And then Emma said, oh, well, why aren't you invited? And Garrity was like, well, it's okay. She can invite whoever she wants, because we talk about that. You know what? We love that everyone's included in our family, but you know what? Sometimes other people, they can choose who they invite and who they want to be around, and that's okay. And so, anyways, this girl went back to Garrity and was like, oh my gosh, that's so mean. Why would she not invite you? And then Garrity in the book, she's like, yeah, I could tell she just wanted to get an emotion out of me, but I wasn't going to give her that. And I just told her she could invite whoever she wanted, and it's okay because I have plans anyways. And I'm just like, oh my God, if I wasn't invited at 12 years old, I would have been like, nobody likes me. I'm like, I have no friends. I would have processed that so differently. Like, it is wild to me. And she's on a volleyball team right now, and a couple of the girls have been a little bit like not nice to her. And she doesn't deal with like drama. She like plays with all the boys on the playground, and like she's tomboy, and she's like, I don't got time for that. Like, I don't know why they are mad at each other, Mom. I don't like, it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. Like, she has like no tolerance for that. But anyways, a couple girls have been like saying stuff, and it's probably a jealousy thing. She's good at what playing. She's not just from her mom's perspective, but from a coach perspective. I'm like, damn, that kid is pretty talented. Anyways, they were saying stuff to her, and she's like, yeah, I just try not to let it get to me or whatever. But there's a birthday party this weekend that she's invited to with a sleepover. And she's like, Mom, I just don't want to go. Can you just tell them that I'm not going to go? And I'm like, okay, that's your choice. Why do you not want to go? And we don't really do sleepovers anyways, but I would let her stay at this person's house. And she's like, well, so and so is going to be there, and I just don't want to be around their energy. And I'm like, fair. Freaking fair. I was
I
like,
love
this
it.
this kid is like, yeah. So she's teaching me every day. But I just try to be very conscious. And, there's times that like I'll get upset with my kids and then I'll yell at them. And then I'm like, oh gosh, that was not a good moment. And I go back to them and I'm like, hey, I'm sorry I got really upset and I yelled at you. I was very passionate inside. And like, so I like have that open dialogue with my kids and they come to me and tell me how they're feeling about stuff all the time. And so I love that we have that open dialogue because I didn't have that when I was a kid. I was like, I'm the fourth of five kids. And if you got picked on, you got picked on. And, all of that. So it's like, I love that my kids can like openly, and more my daughter, my son's kind of like whatever, but he's 15.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they're pretty great.
That's incredible, and kudos to you because those are two huge stories showing her character and in herself to be able to
Yes.
understand how she's feeling or how certain people and energies make her feel, and then her make a decision based off of that. And I think, man, she's gonna go far in life with all this.
I know. I'd be like, I would still go to that birthday sleepover because I'd be like, I don't want to miss anything. Like,
Yeah,
I need
FOMO
to go.
is real. Yeah.
She's just like, whatever. I don't need to be there. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
That is incredible. I think it's so important to be instilling these things in the future generations because I think in the past it's like, oh, well, when you're an adult, you'll learn that. And it's like, well, no, if you're teaching those things to children now and they're able to have a process within themselves like your daughter has had, that is going to serve her tenfold when she's in her 20s, 30s. And so that's just incredible that you're able to pass that down to both of your children.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, of course. Well, I would love to hear from you and all your wisdom. What advice you would give to someone who is listening to this conversation and is in a current in between? I think both from your medical side as well as the mental health aspect in your personal life experience. What advice you would offer them?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're always telling ourselves a story of why we can or cannot do something, a story around why things are or are not. So I think within that story, if you can take yourself and step back and say, what if this story wasn't true? This in-between time where I'm struggling, where things just are off, take a step out of that and say, what if this wasn't true? How would you show up? What would you be doing? What would change within you? You're like, oh, I'd feel more calm, or I'd have more time for this, or I would do that. That is giving you a gift to see the other side of probably what we should be doing. So just asking yourself, what if this story wasn't true? What would be available to me then? Because that really can help get us out of that emotional part of the brain and get into what's called our prefrontal cortex, which is our executive function thinking. So I think that is a really important thing to do. The other thing is to listen to your body. And if you don't know how to decode what your body's trying to tell you, go to someone like me or somebody that can say, hey, what if it could be this? What if we looked at it from this angle? So this is called perspective shifting. Again, this is all coming from the mind because we put ourselves in these boxes based on how we think. And how we think is based on past programming that was downloaded into us from culture, society, our parents, siblings, all the things that have happened to us. So it's really good to have somebody who can be, it's like a sounding board, somebody that can reflect back to us strategically what we're saying, but in a way that gets us to access a different part of our brain. Because when we can do that, then we can start to heal. And most people don't realize that we can shift our biochemistry, so the chemicals in our body, in 150 to 300 milliseconds by shifting a thought alone. Wow. So we are constantly programming health and well-being, calmness and joy, or we are constantly programming dis-ease in the body, feeling fearful, being frightened. And this is all, again, coming from our mind. So I think working with somebody to help you or research yourself, but what is your physical body telling you? Because I can almost guarantee that on average, you are not dying. You are not super sick. These are just, your body's just trying to say, hey, I'm trying to tell you something. And when we live in more fear, what we do is we go down these rabbit holes of I have all these things wrong with me, when really all these things are right about you because your body is telling you information. Your body is working. Our body does a zillion things each and every day to keep us alive. Our body does not want us to be ill or does not want us to be sick and die. Like, it doesn't want that. It does everything
It's
to
avoiding
keep
that.
us. Yes, but it's giving us signals. It's giving us cues. And we got to look at those cues as gifts, as information, versus looking at those cues as punishment. Oh, I'm getting older, or oh, I did this, so now I feel this way. It's like these are gifts and these are cues. The physical symptoms are not punishments, and to shift that and help decode that, because that is really helpful.
Yes, I love that advice. I want to shout out your podcast. What's your podcast called again?
Yes, the Happy Whole You podcast.
Happy Whole You. Like I mentioned, I listened to a couple episodes, and I think on this conversation of listening to your body and understanding cues, your podcast has a lot of great episodes. If that's something maybe you're not quite ready to take the step to be a patient, I highly recommend. They're short episodes, but they're really good nuggets of the information that you need. Do you have any other resources that people can utilize to dive further into all of these topics?
Yes, you can go to drannamarie.com, and I have a blog if you're into blog reading, but these blogs are like little nuggets of moments of things that I think of, and I just get it down on paper, and it's all about the mind and the body. And then also you can go to happywholeyou.com, and on there we have a link to the podcast. We have brain nutraceuticals, and also you can therapies that you could travel to Bakersfield, California to do, spend a day here. I'm actually working on an Airbnb a block and a half away. That's going to be a wellness Airbnb. So you can come and you can stay in Bakersfield and access the full wellness center. So that'll be coming soon. And just connecting through the podcast. I also have my book called Stop Bullying Yourself, which is all about that inner critic in your mind. And you can either get that on the website or you can get it. I'll read it to you on Audible. So however you prefer.
I'll have to check it out. I love Audible. Do you take clients virtually?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I see a lot
perfect.
of people virtually. Yep. So so virtually or in person. If you can't travel here, we can do it virtually as well. And it's just as effective.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been so valuable, and I've loved to get to hear your story and just learn so much from you. I feel like we didn't even skim the surface of your practice and what you do, but your story was just so interesting to me when I read it, because I'm like, you don't hear most people, choosing to chase their dreams not later in life. Your life's just starting.
It's okay, girl. I'm in my 40s. Okay.
That's not later in life at all, but it's just interesting because I know people, I'm in my late 20s that would be terrified to even think about making a move like that. And so let alone when you're established with a husband and kids and all these things that the world would tell you make it more risky and more, and it's like, no, you can still do it and come out the other side successful. And even more important than that, satisfied and happy within your life. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your platform, and I loved it. Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate it. Well, we're going to put all of the links to Dr. Anna Marie and Whole Happy You in the show notes so you can give her a follow and consume all of her resources. Make sure you give @InBetweenConvos a follow on Instagram, and we'll catch you next time.